Hello, everyone. As you join, let's give the other attendees, as I see they're logging in, a few minutes to complete their login, and we'll begin shortly. If you can confirm you're seeing my screen and that you're hearing my audio, I'd appreciate it. All right, perfect. I see that we almost have every registered attendee logging in. We'll wait for 1 or 2 more minutes and we'll get started. Okay, I think we're good to go. So there we are. Welcome to this webinar so you can meet the new techTRACK framework. If you're here, surely you have received our notification that there's a migration ongoing for the new techTRACK framework, faster, more efficient, uh, more secure, and also with improved control over your users and organizations. So let's get started. In this webinar, we're going to review the following, okay? The key elements of this new framework that we have, the redefinition of some terms that you might be acquainted with from the old framework, and the new terminology that you'll get used to as you use the new framework. And well, of course, advantages of these new implementations, and as well, obviously, as some time in, we're going to go into the new techTRACK version so you can have a sneak peek of how it looks like, what you can do in there, how it feels. And also, we're going to review the steps required for migration. Some of these have already been rolled out by our team and are being rolled out as we speak, and will be throughout the next few days, and the steps to follow on your side on any remaining elements that might be required. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the key elements of this new framework. Okay. First of all, from left to right, let's talk about security. Okay. So far, at the time of logging into techTRACK, you had to enter your username and password. Okay. The changes here allow us to have single sign-on. So there's a centralization of security there. And if required or needed, also upon request, multi-factor authentication. Okay. So this improved security elements will give you more control over who logs in, how they log in, and also implement additional elements of security. We're going to be communicated details into how this works. So far as we assign permissions and roll out this security improvement, you should have got emails or will be getting emails from techTRACK requesting you to create new password for your user. Okay. What this will do is connect you to this new login through this increased security framework. Okay. Take into account that some of these elements are optional. You don't you can implement it if you need so. For example, multi-factor authentication, and that we are going to expand this module in due time to include more login options. Okay. As for performance, there have been or there have been implementations on this side. Um, you might have noticed that the previous framework, when trying to load big amounts of data, especially when you, for example, project the whole year across the dashboards or the performance views, this has been increased significantly. Okay, so we're going to review a couple of things here and there as well, but you'll surely feel a performance improvement when it comes to the speed of loading different elements and speed of filtering as well. As for the new UI, you're going to realize that the new UI is much cleaner, easier to access as well. While, for example, in the previous framework, you had to navigate with the top bar through different drop downs. Over here, everything will be centralized on a sidebar from where you can jump from one place to another in a really organic way. And also, things are structured in a better way with additional export options and um, additional elements of information for tables. Okay. So you're going to realize that the UI is much more friendly, cleaner, and fast as well. As for user control, we're going to move to the next slide in a minute. There have been changes in terms of terminology and organization of the entities. Okay. These have been redefined, allowing you to have isolated control of the users instead of having those under your organization as a whole, and then segmenting permissions depending on the case, shipper visibility, location visibility. All this has been changed so that users exist in the realm of where they should be. For example, if you have a user, an admin user from your organization, from your company, which is in which should access every portal or does have access to creating users, etc., these will exist under the realm of the organization, okay, or in other words, or under the realm of the portal. Now, if you have users that are under your clients or shippers using the old terminology, okay, these were created as part of your portal or direct access to the portal on your side, and were then assigned specific visibility permissions, of which, if you forgot, they would have access to everything. Now, these users, the clients or shippers, which are now called accounts, okay, these users exist under their own realm. Okay, they can have their own administrators if needed, so you can delegate all these administrator permissions element to your client and not overload yourself with managing their own profiles. Okay, we're going to see that in a minute. And of course, this is much more convenient when it comes to filtering. Okay, so you can filter these users in a more convenient way. Now, as for definitions, okay, this is important that you take into account. Some terminology has been changed, so it's more bound to what these actually are. Okay, so your portal now, or your portals, will be organizations. Okay, you're going to access your TechShip portal, but under that portal, as such, you will have different organizations. Okay, these organizations might have their accounts, might have different locations, but it allows you to isolate these if required. Okay. When it comes to the old term of warehouse, now these are locations. Okay, these locations are set under the organization, are automatically created from TechShip when you run the usual process. Nothing changes on TechShip side. And then shippers are now called accounts. The term shipper could be a little bit confusing because you might think that it's them shipping the products. Well, it's actually you. So now these are accounts. So for example, if I would be a warehouse, right? Sorry, if I would be a company which has two warehouses, And under one of these warehouses, I'm selling, let's say I'm shipping for Nike, and for another, I'm shipping for Skechers. What I'm going to have is one organization, which is my company, two locations, warehouse A and warehouse B. Let's say that we have one in California, the other one in Florida, right? And then under each one of these, where they belong to, for example, I'm shipping Nike from California, Skechers from Florida. Uh, um, the account will be under the organization that way. Okay. So these are the new definitions. Having said so, we're going to review the follow-up steps at the end of the webinar, okay? But right now, let's dive into the new view and elements, okay? Let's do it. So what you're seeing over here is the new framework, the new UI. While you were used to have here on top different elements for navigation, you now have these on this section. Okay, we're not going to deep dive on the features as it would be a demo for this. You'll have plenty of time to go in and use it. This bar will be collapsed so you can focus on the elements you have on screen. It's easier to navigate and better to see it. There are some export elements down here if you need so, PNG, SFG, and CSV as well for the trends. As usual, you have the world map to filter. You have the filters up here for location, accounts, carriers, month here, right? But over here, you can move or jump from one place to another in an easy manner without having additional navigation elements. You'll see that as you hit a specific element, you have a loading bar up here, so you know where in the process of loading it is. And as you can see, we're hitting over here almost 20,000 trackings loaded in a few seconds. As usual, you can navigate from here. You can see tracking details. So these views the performance for loading all these elements. As you can see, performance, for example, is almost immediate load. You can see all these elements in this different view. As usual, you will have the export elements here if you want to work offline, but the online views load in just a few seconds, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about the admin level, okay? As you can see over here, I'm logged in as a regular user. So if I try to access elements which are not part of my realm, I'm going to be forbidden to access these, okay? So let's take a look at things from the admin side. The administrator will have view of everything a regular user has for whichever operational reason needed, okay? For example, downloading something, generating a report, accessing tech audit if needed, okay? But we're going to focus here in organizations, okay? So I do have an organization under this portal, and we're going to jump into it and review the new structure. So under your organization, what you're going to find, in this case, this is a test one, so there's information that is not filled out, but I'm going to point out some elements which are going to be of interest for you. First of all, you'll see that over here you have your domain, your API key, the name, and as defined upon setup, you're also going to be able to see your time zone, your subscription ID for ChargeBee, as well as additional ID fee IDs, okay, for trackings and for audit carriers if you're going to handle tech audit, okay? These are going to be visible for you, so if at any point you need to reach or you need help from your accounting department or you have any questions for us, you can easily provide a subscription ID and we can track the fees and your subscription easily, okay? Under this structure, what you'll find is that we have now accounts, locations, and users, okay? So as I described before, accounts are what used to be shippers, locations are what used to be warehouses, okay? Let's give it a moment there. There we go. In this case, I have one, and then I have users under my organization, okay? Right now, I'm logged in as the administrator, but I'm going to show you how to create locations, accounts, and users, and then users under the accounts. Now, we're going to start with users because this is the most important thing. you see that in this section, we are at the organization level, okay? So any users I create from here will have access to the whole organization, okay? Obviously limited by the role, but they will have access to the organization. Creating users from here is or represents users from your company, okay? From whichever warehouse, but from your company, not your clients. Your clients will go under accounts accordingly, okay? So this is really straightforward. If you want to create a user under here, you go to create. Let's say, for example, that I need to create, I'm the admin, but I need to create two users for two warehouse assistants, okay? Which are going to be keep tracking of metrics, performance, divided by carrier and by client, okay? So what I'm going to do here is create. Over here, I'm going to create, let's say, Sally at fc.com, okay? And Sally is going to be a regular user, okay? The three types of users you can create is an administrator, okay? As you are one, you're able to provide this role to someone else. Audit user is for regular users which also have access to tech audit, okay? So anyone accessing tech audit will also have information or access to the information on the tracking side, and then user, okay? So I'm gonna save it as user, and that's it, okay? If Sally now logs in, she'll be able to see the organization information limited to what a user can. Also, I'm gonna give John, my auditor, access as an audit user, okay? There we go. So that's how you create these roles. If at any point you need to change them, you can perfectly do so. You can come over here and say, well, John has performed different audits. Now what I'm going to do is downgrade him to user, and that's it, okay? Now, if you need to decommission any of these, let's say John has finished his audit, he's a third-party auditor, okay? We can just delete it, and that's okay. That's good to go, okay? As simple as this. When it comes to locations, over here, as you can see, we have a location which is enabled, which is Dallas. I'm going to create two more locations. I mentioned the California warehouse, okay? And I mentioned the Florida warehouse. So that's what I'm going to do right now, okay? I'm going to come over here and I'm going to um, assign these, okay? I do have a few questions in the Q&A section. I'm going to address these at the end, but if you have questions, please drop them there. We'll be answering those after we end up the tour here. Okay, but thank you. Over here, as I create the location, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this California. Let's say be more specific, okay? San Francisco. And I'm going to call this SFFC, okay? San Francisco FC. There we go. And I'm also going to create, let's say, Miami, Opa Loca at Florida, or let's do OL, Opa Loca FC, okay? These again will be created under my organization. If I edit these, if at any point you change the code, you set these up this way, okay? Now, again, these can be created from here, but as you manifest in TechShip, these will be pushed in since these are associated with TechShip portals, okay? But well, that's how locations works. If at any point you need to search, if you have several locations, you can perfectly do so from here. Now, when it comes to accounts, now over here, I'm talking about my clients, okay? So I have one, Gates of Atlantis. I'm going to create a couple more. But from here, you can see that when you edit a client, you have three sections. You have main, which allows you to see what you defined before, name and code. You see the API key. When it comes to locations, you can determine which locations are associated to this client, right? For example, let's say that I'm shipping from Dallas and San Francisco for Gates of Atlantis, okay? And when it comes to users, okay, just a second. My bad here, forgot to save. Let's save over here. There we go. And over here, we don't have any users. But I know that in Gates of Atlantis, this company, my client, there's a manager that wants access to techTRACK so she can review the stats in anything that's required without my assistance. Okay, they just want to go in, retrieve the data, and that's great. Over here, you can create Diana at gatesofatlantis.com. Okay, and she's going to be a user. Okay, I could assign the administrator role. That's perfect. Maybe she is. Okay, and if you want to delegate them creating users to their account, that's great. I mean, you can, as I mentioned before in the presentation, you can delegate the capability of your clients creating their own client access. Okay, if they have regional managers, local managers, anyone that might need access on their company, you can just assign an administrator and delegate to them. This is how you do it. You can share our own articles for this if you need to, but you can unburden this. You can unburden yourself from this of keeping maintenance of your clients' users. Okay. And nevertheless, if you need to create more, or if you want to keep a hold on this, just don't assign them as administrators. Just assign them as users, and as defined by your internal process, you might manage this as you might need. Okay, maybe you want to keep a hold of who gets access and who doesn't, or maybe you can just delegate this. It's really up to you. Okay, but the tools are here enabling you to do this. Okay, so that's how you create users for an account. Now, if I remember this, right, I have Diana at gatesofatlantis.com. Now, if I navigate back to the organization, okay, and I view, you're going to realize if I go to users, Diana is not going to be here. Why? Because these are users under my company, under my organization. But if I go into accounts within Gates of Atlantis and within users, Diana exists in that realm. She doesn't exist as part of my whole company as it was in the previous framework. Okay, where what was limited was visibility. Now these are effectively isolated within each one of their accounts. Okay. So just to have a full run through of how to add your clients into your portal and organization, we're going to do the whole process. Okay, so right now we're going to create an account. We're going to define its elements. We're going to assign which locations are going to work with, okay? And we're going to create a couple of users. We'll do this for San Francisco, and we'll do this for Opaloka, okay? So let's start. This account is going to be Nike. We said that Nike was going to be shipped from San Francisco, okay? So I have now my account, Nike. As you can see, these are automatically ID'd. When I click edit here, in the main section, there's nothing I will be able to change. I have my API key. Well, sorry, nothing I need to define. I can change information here if I need so at any time, but I do have the API key, which is locked in the organization. I can update, for example, the codes. If I go to locations, I'm going to enable this one just for San Francisco, and I'm going to save it. And when it comes to users, I'm going to create a user for Pete. Sorry. Pete at Nike.com. And I'm going to assign a role as user, okay? As I save it, this should be all right now. Let's do the following with Sketchers, okay? I'm going to go back to organization. I'm going to, within organization, create another one, Sketchers. Say that we have a four character code for the accounts. Okay, I'm going to save this here. I'm going to edit Sketchers. I'm going to determine the location. This is going to be operating from the Opaloka location. I'm going to save it. Users. And I'm going to do Mary here. at sketchers.com, and she's going to be an admin in this case. Okay, so I'm going to save it, and we're good to go. Okay, as you can see, just in a few minutes, you can assemble your whole user structure and account structure in an easy way. And all these are isolated from each other in this sense. Okay, you have your users, locations, and accounts. Now, as for the Q&A, if the question is, does a new user automatically get SSO auth capability? I'm going to show, the answer is this. I'm going to show how the login is going to be. Instead of using username and password as you've done now, you're going to log in with a button which says login with Techdinamics, okay? Which is going to be connected with the new structure. As time moves forward, we're going to implement new sign-on elements, so you can sign on with different accounts, Gmail, etc., etc. Okay, or from do an SSO from there. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Now, as for what's next, okay, and what's happening right now. First of all, Techdinamics is updating the organizations and the user permissions and access. Okay, so we are going through users under the migrated data and assigning the proper permissions. You have been notified of this last week and yesterday as well in their second communication. So it is natural that you will be getting, and your organization partners will be getting automatic notifications from our system sent prompting you to set your new access credentials. Okay, so if you haven't got these already, you might get these throughout what remains of the day and possibly tomorrow as well. And if you already did and logged in, you might already have access to your new framework portal for techTRACK. Okay, so we are rolling that out as we speak. And if you already have these automatic notifications, please act according to the instructions received. Okay. Also, effective upon the first new login, portal administrators of each organization are expected to add new account users as we detailed right now, right? So, for example, if I would be this organization admin, I log into I receive this email, I set my new password, I access techTRACK. So the first thing I like to do, if I know that I should have, if my clients should have access, I'm going to go to accounts. I'm going to review whichever account, and for example, Nike, and I'm going to go to users. Okay, the users from January 1st backwards were migrated. Okay, and those which had a corporate email or corporate domain were the ones migrated. Others using personal emails or commercial emails like Gmail, iCloud, etc., were not migrated for security reasons, and we are letting you decide who gets access to your organizations and to your accounts. Okay, so as an admin, I should come over here, make sure that everything is in place. If there's any user missing a role, most likely these were not identified on our end. So we are delegating that you, having the knowledge of your clients, provide access by assigning a role or delete that user if you know that that user should not have access to the system as to date. Okay. And when it comes to tech audit users, again, you will need to give access to these by organization as an organization administrator. You will see that under the accounts, the only two available roles is administrator and user. So remember that audit users are not under your accounts. These are under the organization users. Okay. So if I need to give access to if I need to give access to anyone in my company to tech audit, if you have tech audit as integrated with techTRACK, okay, you need to create that user from here and assign the role audit user. Or if our team, as part of the migration, define it as user, because we don't know who gets access to audit or not on your side, you should redefine the permissions here. So maybe if Sally is an audit user, but in the migration, it was defined as a regular user by the migration element and our team, then you can perfectly say, oh, no, Sally is the auditor. She needs to have access to tech audit. Cool. You just come over here, upgrade the access to audit user and save it. Okay. Well, and as for users without permissions, okay, you might find some within the list which do not have permission. Again, since we couldn't relate them to any accounts in particular, for example, users that are in users that exist but had permissions to to TechShip portals, which are inactive right now. We do not have a way to confirm that these are effectively working in your company anymore, or are still working in your company, and if they should have access at all to techTRACK. So as you might find some gaps in the role section for some of the users that you might have. So these, again, we are delegating to you, since you have knowledge of whom in your organization should or should not have access, for you to provide it as administrators. Okay. With this, we conclude this webinar. I'm going to give just a couple of minutes to see if there's anything else you might like to ask in the question or answer section. And if not, we will wrap up the session. As questions are provided, I just want to clarify that this webinar is being recorded. We're going to provide access to the webinar's recording between today and tomorrow. So in case that anyone from your organization has missed this webinar for whichever reason, they might be on vacation, they might be sick, they might be handling other responsibilities, you can perfectly share it with them so they can review it and ask any questions if needed. Okay, and for you to obviously rewatch it if you need to take it as a guide, or if you need to review it with anyone else and have additional questions to share with our support team or with your CSMs, you can perfectly do so as well. Okay, so let's go to the Q&A section. We already answered one a few minutes ago. So let's go to the next one. The password reset login will be for all techTRACK users or will only get sent to admin? Good question. We are sending password resets for everyone, okay? Well, for everyone that we were able to identify under your previous portals with a corporate email. For example, users with a Gmail account or such. We do not know these people. You surely will. And we consider this a security liability if we give someone permissions over a personal email. So if any of your clients or anyone from your organization using a non-corporate email reaches us or you, letting us know that they're not able to log into techTRACK, then they can create a new user can be created. Ideally, everyone should have a corporate email when creating the users. And the reason why is that as you deactivate that user from the corporate structure, say, for example, the person resigns or they get reassigned or they get fired, right? As you turn off that email on your side, even if we try to give that person credentials from here, that's going to go to the corporate email and it's going to bounce because it doesn't exist anymore. Now, if it's a personal email, for example, pete@gmail.com, Pete, regardless of being in your organization or not, or under your client's organizations or not, will still be getting access. So it can claim for a lost password, or you could be sending credentials there. So that's not safe. Okay. So that would cover that. Everyone who has been assigned with a role here, administrator, admin, audit user, or a regular user, will be getting a reset password, sorry, a reset email so they can set their password and have access to the new platform. Okay, question number 3 here. Is UPS integrated to the performance dashboard in version 2? Yes, it is. Yes. UPS is part of it, so that's covered. Okay, good. We have some questions on webhooks and API. So any improvement in webhook capabilities and any new API offering. As for API and webhooks, as you might have seen as part of the presentation, organizations here have an API key as an organization as such, right? But now under accounts, as you create new accounts, you're going to notice that these have their own API keys as well. So if at any point you have customers that you want to connect or integrate via API, you could do so not targeting your organization directly, but using their own API key. This way you can isolate their operation, and you can have a hybrid system. Maybe some of these are going to interact via web portal, and they're going to have a user in techTRACK. They're going to log into the UI. They're going to perform their operations accordingly, or you can use the API key for some others, right? Which have their own systems on their end and or run their own automations. These are going to be provided. The new framework API is being updated as well, so we're going to have an official communication soon with a list of elements available there, as well as the links. So yes, we'll be informing about these improvements in a short time. Going on the next question. Does this login always impacts TechShip login too, or it is just isolated to TechTRACK? This is a great question. And this is one of the greatest parts of single sign-on. Because so far, especially for those that have been using Techdinamics products for quite some time, so far, you need a keychain, right? You need a username and password for TechShip, another one for techTRACK, another one for TechOMS, right? So your keychain makes a lot of noise as you move it around. Now, as implementing single sign-on, the advantage here is that your sign-on will be centralized across all Techdinamics products. So right now, you could just say, well, if I'm already on SSO, I'm going to use the same username and password for TechShip, as for TechOMS, as for techTRACK. You don't need to keep separate keys. You just have one centralized login for all the products in one shot. Okay. Good. And let's see. I have a couple more questions here. Okay, next question. Does it impact the backend process? For example, if techTRACK backend is sending events to client analytics, that process won't be impacted. This is a good question. I'm going to reach the technical team on this one, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. I don't want to provide a partially accurate explanation. I'm going to take this into account, especially for especially to make sure that I'm not missing any ends, any little details that might be related to handling operations. Okay, but that's good. You can reach your CSM with this question. That'd be the best case scenario. So we can keep track. This has been sent anonymously, so I cannot identify the user or the customer. So if you can send this concern to your CSM, that would be great. I'd appreciate it. As for the last question, can I register tracking number created outside of Techdinamics products in techTRACK to ask for carry event tracking? Um, to be honest, I'm not sure if you can. We can check with the development team if that's possible. So far, the way it's tied is that TechShip is the one that generates these well, obviously, the labels and gets the tracking numbers from the carriers, and subsequently pushes these into techTRACK. Okay. The reason why this is also automatically done by TechShip is because these tracking numbers exist under the realm of a client, right? So these flow under the structure of client to account when it comes to TechShip to techTRACK now. And these tracking numbers that you have are not isolated. Okay. Within the trackings module over here, what you can do is export for the moment. Okay. But if you were to handle that type of operation, there should be a way to associate it with a client, with an organization, with a client, sorry, with an organization, with an account, and with the tracking number and carrier. Okay. But this is also something you can raise to your CSM to see if this is possible or not. If it's maybe it's being implemented, not sure to be honest. But we can perfectly and gladly review on our site. Okay. Good. Well, I see that we don't have any additional questions. I hope that this webinar has been fruitful for um, this process that is running on our end, and will have its cherry on top on your side as you access, configure, and set up the remaining elements pertaining to your organization, which is out of our reach when it comes to knowing who should have access to what, as well as defining the users whenever applicable to your clients under the accounts. Again, and noting back to this particular element, uh, you are now able to delegate in a much easier way any operation that you might have, or any burden that you might have on reporting to your clients when it comes to tracking numbers. This is a huge step ahead for self-sufficiency on your client side. That obviously you cannot break the dependency. They cannot break the dependency on you in this sense, but you could perfectly say, hey, here's your admin user. You can just manage who accesses your account, your data, who doesn't, how they do so. And this is huge in terms of giving you the capability to manage and to take this burden off at the same time. Okay. But well, thank you. This webinar will be uploaded in our YouTube channel and will be communicated by our communications team as soon as possible. Okay. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, or if you run into any roadblocks, don't hesitate to reach your CSM. And if you have any actual problems going through the defined process, um, don't hesitate to reach support as well. Okay. We'll be sending a few additional communications as everything is rolled out within the rest of this week. Well, we thank you for sharing this time with us today, and we wish that you can make the best out of this new TechTRACK framework. Have a great day, and thank you for attending this webinar. Bye-bye.